Sure, someone can do. Okay. So I'm going to have a recording to the cloud. Now my cloud recording is getting a little full on Zoom. So if that gets rejected, I also have this Fathom as backup. So I'm going to be sending out an email. I'll put the link on LinkedIn. If you guys don't get the recording afterwards, send me an email and let me know. But the way, because it's my first one, we're going to kind of figure it out as we go along, guys, nice and messy. I'm going to start addressing some of the questions I got in advance. And then y'all can raise your hand. The little emoji on the bottom, little reaction emoji, you can raise your hand and I'll take a look at that. You can drop things in the chat. I'm going to be looking at that as well. And just a reminder for those who have joined, this is being recorded. So if you don't want to be on camera, no worries, keep your camera off. So with that said, I'm just going to jump on in because y'all are busy. I don't want to waste your time. So let's see here. Some of the questions I got, let me just go to my document here. I'm going to handle this one right off the bat because this is a pretty straightforward one. Michelle had asked, how should I be responding to the questions of gender, race, veteran, disability on job applications? Is it better to respond accordingly or with, I prefer not to answer? Do you feel it increases or decreases chances of moving forward? So here's the deal about those questions. They are asked by companies that work for the federal government. There is an agency, I forgot the name, they're in the Department of Labor, but it's actually an anti-discrimination agency. What this does is when you're asking these questions, when they ask these questions in the job application, that information does not get sent to the recruiter or the hiring manager or whoever is reviewing applications. It's kept separate. So in theory, they do not see that information. And again, it's for federal compliance. This agency wants to make sure that we're not discriminating. So what they're doing is they're just gathering that data so they can say, yes, we are getting a diverse pool of candidates applying for the job. We want to be an equal opportunity employer, all that good stuff. So that's the first part of the question. They do not see it. The second part of the question, just answer if you want. I prefer not to answer. That's totally fine. Doesn't hurt you one way or the other. So I hope that helps. Ooh, Mai asked, okay, good. Mai, that's a great one. I'm going to hop onto that one too. Jonah, thank you. EEOC compliance. You are absolutely right. Thank you. I saw you nodding your head, so I appreciate. And Jonah, hop on in. Did I answer any of that incorrectly? No?
Not at all, but just being HR, I could release you of like, hey, I know what you're talking about. And it's just mandatory. Again, like you said, nobody gets that information, but I could understand as an applicant, like, is this going somewhere? It's especially publicly traded companies, government agencies have to ask those questions.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Okay, Jonah, yay. Oh, I love having some HR expertise here. That's awesome. You know what, Mai? I'm going to jump on your question now because I don't want to get it lost in the chat. This is a good one. I absolutely love this question. So Mai asks, I was advised not to share my expected salary until getting to the final round of interviews. However, in the initial application template, the expected salary question is usually mandatory. What should I do? So short answer, put 0 in the application. That's the short answer. Because you don't want to put yourself in a weakened negotiating position down the road. Long answer is when you have that first recruiter conversation. And by the way, I just wrote a newsletter about this. So if you go to my website and you look at the newsletter tab under resources, you're going to see, I just wrote this last week, I want to say. So it's called How Do You Answer Salary Expectations, something like that. But the short of it is in the recruiter interview, they're going to ask, so Emily, what are your salary expectations? You don't answer that. What you say is, I'm still learning about this role and I haven't set expectations yet. What do you have budgeted for this position? Now, if they come back and say, okay, great, Emily, I hear you, but we can't move forward until we know what you're expecting. You can go back and just say, I really haven't done my research yet. I'm not sure. Do you have a range? You just keep pushing back like that. If by the third try, they absolutely say, Emily, first of all, red flag if they keep pushing you without giving you a figure. But that aside, do research in advance. So in that article that I wrote, I have 6 resources that you can use to research salary in advance, like salary.com. I have a Bureau of Labor and Statistics link. Comparably, I have a couple of those. What you're going to do is research at least 3 sites in advance. Type in your job title and location, and you're going to get a variety, you're going to get a range of salary. So you're going to have that number in advance. You're just not going to share it if you can avoid it. But if by that 3rd round and they really push you, you say, based on my research, that's the key. Based on my research, because then it's not about you, it's about the cold hard data. Based on my research, a range for this salary would be, and what you do is you put your ideal number on the bottom of the range and add 15 to 20% to the top of the range. So you say, based on my research, based on my research for this job title in this industry, in this location, the average salary is between X and Y. Does that sound about right to you? So I hope that helps answer it. And then while we're talking about salary, even if you end up quoting a number and you kick yourself and you're like, oh man, why did I say that? And then you end up going through more interviews and you end up getting an offer. This just happened with a client yesterday. They had discussed 120. She was expecting the offer. She says, I want a little bit more than that. I'd be happy with 120, but I want more. And I'm like, yeah, you do. You want more. So we came up with another number for her that said, based on my research, and we ended up coming up with pitching 127.50. The reason why is when you're a little bit off, it's not just a random round number, but it's a little bit like 750. It shows that you've done your research. So she went back, she offered 127.50. They came back at 125, even though she initially discussed 120. So you can still, if you've like, oh gosh, Emily, I screwed up, I said a number, you can still negotiate it down the road. So I hope that helped answer the question. Okay, excellent. I see some other questions coming through. Let me go back because I know I promised some people who I emailed to answer some of their questions as well. So I love this one from Jason. Jason in the UK. Job titles on CVs or resumes. How creative, flexible can we be? So he followed up, I've had technical director roles, but the role has actually been technical delivery. So when I'm applying for delivery or PM roles, recruiter thinks I'm more technically biased where I'm not. Love this question. Here's how you handle it. You put the actual job title that you have on your resume, and then in parentheses right next to that, you can put what you actually did. And you can do the same thing for your LinkedIn. So you have whatever it is, put that real job title because that's what you're listed as, then put in parentheses what it actually is. And this is why this is important. Well, first of all, for recruiters, as Jason had astutely pointed out, but when recruiters are searching LinkedIn for potential candidates, they're searching for 3 things: job title, location, and skills. So if you don't have the correct job title, you're not showing up in those searches. So I say this all the time. You want to write your LinkedIn profile for the job you want, not the job you have. So anything that you can do to kind of position yourself for that ideal job title, including putting that ideal job title in parentheses, please do it. So I hope, Jason, if you're with us, I hope that answered your question. Let me pop on over to another one here. Okay, this one, all right, I was getting a lot of questions about LinkedIn. So let me see if I can combine 2 of these into one. So one question, I would like to hear more. I'm going to read them both because they're related. Valerie had asked, I would like to hear more about the link between frequent postings and increased access to recruiters and or job opportunities on LinkedIn. I have no idea if that's true or not. Do you know anything about it? Yes, I do. And LinkedIn is one of my favorite topics. So Valerie, that was the first question. And Linda asked, I have a general question about how to get noticed on LinkedIn, how to make recruiters want to contact me. So here's the deal with LinkedIn. I'm going to say off the bat, I'm teaching a course about this in 2 weeks. I haven't announced it yet. So big announcement, guys. was going to announce it tomorrow, but in 2 weeks, I'm launching a LinkedIn for Job Seekers course that's going to cover all of this. So I can drop the link in the chat if I get my act together. But if not, if you go to my website and you go under coaching services, you're going to see group course LinkedIn for Job Seekers. So the stuff that I'm telling you now, we're covering in the course too, but I'm going to try to give you an overall perspective. So LinkedIn changed their algorithm in 2023. LinkedIn used to be a set it and forget it site, right? Where you could just put up your profile, never do anything with the site, and ideally have recruiters contact you. In 2023, they changed their algorithm to reward engagement and knowledge. So the more engaged you are with the site and the more knowledge that you share, the more your profile gets viewed and the higher you rank in search results. So I call it, it's like the equivalent of landing on the front page of Google. Because as I mentioned, so recruiters, when they're looking for potential candidates, they do these long, what's called Boolean searches. And so they're saying job title plus location plus skills minus this skill. They do this long search and potential candidates will come up in their search. Now, LinkedIn ranks how those candidates show up based on relevance, right? So if you have those keywords in your profile or you're writing about those keywords, always a beautiful thing, but also based on that engagement and activity, right? It's kind of like because you're a more popular profile, you're ranking higher. So when people would tell me, Emily, what the heck? I used to have recruiters reaching out to me all the time and now I don't. What's going on? And then I go to their LinkedIn profile and they haven't been active, they're not commenting. That's a big reason why. So what I do with my clients is I give them the challenge to do 10 comments a day for 30 days. If you have not been active on LinkedIn much, this is an amazing way to kick the algorithm and be like, oh, okay, Emily's here. Emily's doing something. She's being really active. So if you can do 10 comments a day for 30 days, and when I say comments, not just thanks for sharing. Studies have shown, I study the LinkedIn algorithm a lot, and studies have shown that comments that are 15 words generally perform the best. So if you can do something like, I agree 100%. What you said about this makes a lot of sense. And then add a little something of your own point of view, that counts as a great comment. So that's number one. If you could do 10 comments a day for 30 days, that's going to help you a lot with the algorithm. Number two is, Emily, I get this question a lot. What should I post? What the heck should I post? I hate posting. What do I do? Here's the good news. Comments can help you more than posts can. So if you're terrified about posting, just start with comments. It's all good. You can do that. If I can get you to post once a week, I would love that. And what you post about is the ideal posts that I like to see are when people are writing posts where they're sharing their expertise, where they're telling stories about problems they solved at work, right? Or challenges they overcame. So telling stories about your professional history go a long way. Also writing about the keywords that you see in job descriptions. So for example, if you see a lot that like HubSpot is required, you're in marketing and you see HubSpot is required in all of these positions, write about your experience using HubSpot. Because this is a great way to get keywords into your profile and also demonstrate your expertise. Because again, LinkedIn rewards engagement and knowledge. So I hope that answered the overall questions for you guys. Oh, Jonah, good follow-up question. You talked about posting around keywords. Are hashtags a thing of the past? That's a good question. They're not so much in the past, but they're not weighed as heavily right now. So putting in hashtags such as like if you're in HR and putting hashtag HR or hashtag the topic that you're discussing, that's great. But you don't have to go like, like Instagram and the other ones where you have like 15 keywords, 15 hashtags listed. Yeah, you don't need to do that. Does that answer your question, Jonah?
It does. And I've heard like 3 maximum. And yes, people put in this like paragraph of hashtags. I just didn't know if they were kind of a thing by the wayside or if you could still kind of get reach by at least hitting a hashtag if people are still using them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It doesn't hurt you to add them. So I like your 3 to 5. That's generally good. Marta, how to highlight skills instead of education. Yes. Ooh, and Gregory, you're right on that. Yes, Gregory is absolutely right. So LinkedIn, about 6 months ago, I want to say, maybe longer. Ooh, and then Gregory, I see your hand up. They actually changed the skills section from 50 to 100 skills. So you can add up to 100 skills in your profile now, and you can reorder them. So as Gregory pointed out, when you click on the skills and I'm scared to share my screen right now because I don't know if it's going to glitch out, but when you're on the skills section in the right corner, there's a little, there's a little arrow, and you click on that arrow and a little hamburger, those 3-line menu comes up. You can use that to drag the skills. So I recommend putting the skills that are most relevant to the jobs you're applying to, put those skills higher up on the list, and go back and, research your skills. I remember I had a client a little while ago, and I was checking out her skills, and she used to be a coffee shop manager. So she had all this stuff from like 10 years ago from being a coffee shop manager. I'm like, girl, those aren't hurting you. Those aren't helping you. Get rid of those. So it's always good to do a skill audit too. And while we're talking about skills, because again, recruiters are searching by skills, that's one of their search criteria. You can add skills. You can add up to 5 skills in the about section. You can also add your general skills, but then also in the experience section, you can add skills for each job that you used, for each skill that you used in that job. So I recommend, again, if these are skills, keywords that you're seeing again in job descriptions, put them all over your profile. Love that. So Gregory, thanks for, and Gregory, since you were able to help out Marta, what's your question, my friend? Ah, sorry, you're muted. There you are.
Yeah, I was about to respond to Joan Wright of Rochester, New York. Go Rochester Americans of the AHL. We were both former North Division rivals with the Manitoba Moose here in terms of hockey and stuff. So I was just about to reply. In terms of hashtags, I recommend doing hashtags on posts to drive engagement, to get yourself out there in terms of talking about a subject. Because, for example, I basically redone my public URL, and I put that in the chat. You see my name, and then you have a dash, and the letters after the dash is a hashtag on my headline post of my profile. Hashtag put the H back in HR, and that's basically to drive movement and cause for change in a particular space. And once I did that on a particular post in a community group, I got like around 4,000 impressions, and I got like around in total, putting it around there, around 550 impressions. And I put that in terms of my open to work thing template, which you kindly provided to me and stuff, and it's a very good particular tool to do. And I got like a few hundred impressions off of that, and a few and 3 reposts within my network per se. So yeah, so hashtag works is virtually is a good thing to do in terms of putting a tool in terms of your posts, especially when you are a neurodivergent such as like me. And I think that in my questions, I will say that a lot of HR professionals are virtually, I will say, in terms of my latest post that got in a group around 4,000 impressions on my personal profile page, it got like 400 impressions. That HR has definitely failed people with disability, and mainly people who are neurodivergent. Mm-hmm. And I would love to know, what can myself to call out the 73% of HR professionals who do not know or has not been trained in neurodiversity in the last 12 months, and get them to understand it and basically do equitable hiring procedures in regards to, in terms of how to recruit me in a fair, equitable manner that is virtually should be known for professionalism, personality, character in the business, and morality purposes.
Gregory, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I really like your put the HBAC in HR hashtag and how you've been advocating for that. And it's a perfect example of what we were just talking about, what to post about. So by doing this, not only is Gregory's accomplishing two things: make advocacy, right? And highlighting an issue, and it shows that you know about your industry. That's the second thing that you're bringing. You're bringing these knowledge and these tools. So it's a great way of showcasing your knowledge and industry expertise while also advocating at the same time. So Gregory, thank you for saying that. And I love you using that hashtag to start a movement. I think that's excellent. Malcolm, great question.
Thank you, Emily. You're gonna make me cry.
Oh, Gregory, and I'm going to check out your headshots. Gregory and I have been DMing back and forth. So I'm here for you, my friend. I'm here for you. Malcolm, you
I
said—
got your back.
Malcolm, you said, what's the rule about showing years for job experience? How far you should go or remove from either LinkedIn or CV? Excellent question. I can answer this relatively quickly. The general rule is 10 years, particularly if you're worried about ageism. 10 years is a good cutoff, 15 years max. I hate saying that to people because you're very proud of your career history. For a resume, 100%. You don't need to go back, 20 years. They care about what you've done recently. Now, I have a client right now who struggles with this because one of her most impressive employers was like 20 years ago. So she's like, Emily, I really want to keep it on because, it's such like I did so much amazing stuff there. And I'm like, okay, all right. I hear you. Luckily, some of her other jobs that she's had since then are also relevant. So she can kind of keep that list going and it's okay. But that's an exception. In general, stick to 10 years. If you want 15 years on your LinkedIn, you have room, you can do more. But I was talking with a job seeker yesterday who was really worried about ageism. So I had her delete pretty much everything. I'm trying to remember. She was with one employer for like 10 years. So I think it was like 2007. I let her keep on because she was there for 10 years, like 2007 to 2017. But anything other than that, particularly because it also wasn't relevant to what she's currently doing. So Malcolm, I hope that helps. I'm going to say this real quick as we're talking about relevant. I have a rule for resumes. I call it the RIB rule. It's an acronym. 3 things you want to worry about for your resume. Number 1, relevant. You want to make sure everything in your resume is relevant to the job you're applying for. So ideally, you're customizing your resume for the jobs you're applying to. And you look at the job description and you look at the keywords and you look at your resume and you go, is this relevant to the job I'm applying for? If it's not, remove it. The second thing, the I, is impact. So you don't want to talk about your role and your responsibilities. You want to talk about the impact and the value that you've brought. So talk about your results as much as possible. Throwing in numbers, we love to see that as well. So we've got relevant, we've got impact, and then the B stands for boring. Because recruiters are reading hundreds of resumes at a time, you want to make it very simple and easy for them to read. So I'm talking lots of white space, bullet points, avoid dense paragraphs. This is where the relevant part comes in. Because I would rather see a resume that's half a page long and everything on there is perfectly suited to the job you're applying for than a resume that's 3 pages long and it's not exactly relevant. So for those of you who are wondering, how do I know it's relevant or how do I know? Just study the job descriptions and go from there, right? Because recruiters are spending 8 to 10 seconds scanning a resume. And what they're looking for is what's your current job title? What are your skills? And they love seeing numbers that illustrate your impact. So that's what you kind of want to jam pack your resume with. Awesome. Okay. Ooh, Sally, I'm going to grab your question because I'm a big fan of this. Sally asks, can you also address how to switch industries, like taking some skills, same job title, different sector? I love a good career pivot. I'm a huge fan of a career pivot. So let me rewind a little bit. When you are, okay, I have a business background. When I switched over from business coaching to career coaching, I saw a huge amount equivalent between being an entrepreneur and being a job seeker. And Sally, this is ultimately going to answer your question, I promise. Entrepreneurs and job seekers both have target customers, and those target customers have pain points. And your job is to illustrate how you solve that pain point, right? So in the job description, they are describing their pain points. They're telling you exactly what they want out of this role. So whenever you're applying for a job, and especially if you're doing a career pivot, it's always through the lens. This is one of my favorite lines to use. You're looking for someone who can do X, Y, Z. I've done it before. Here's how. Or you're looking for someone who can do this. This is how I can help you. And here's how I've done it in the past. So when you're speaking directly to their pain points, their problems, their wants, and their needs, they're like, oh my gosh, you understand me. Thank you. You're speaking directly to how you can help me. So oftentimes I see people going, here's my background, here's my experience, here are my bullet points. Okay, great. In marketing, we talk about, so what? Why should I care? What's in it for me? So you're talking about your background, and I'm sitting here as a hiring manager thinking, so what? Why should I care? What's in it for me? But if you say, here's my background, here's what you need, here's how my background can help you and your particular needs, it's like, oh, it's a breath of fresh air. So Sally, in answer to your question, in terms of how to switch industries and, talking about that, if you can talk about your past experience through the lens of their pain points and saying, this is, yes, I come from this industry, I don't have that traditional job title, but this is how I've solved your problem in the past, you're golden. Because I'm telling you, 99% of job seekers don't do that. They just talk about their background. So Sally, I see you nodding. Does that help? Okay, excellent. I love a great career pivot. That's oh my gosh, it's so helpful. Let's see here. Sorry, some other questions have come by that I wasn't able to take a look at. So, question, 2 candidates with equals. Oh, Sean, let's take yours. Sorry, I missed yours. Oh, and Hannah. All right, I'm just scrolling up a little bit. Sean, I'll grab yours first. Oh, thank you for the congratulations. If 2 candidates with equal skills and experience apply for the same open role, but one of the candidates was laid off and has been unemployed for 6 or more months, will priority be given to the candidate who is currently employed elsewhere? Excellent question. I'm going to go back to the answer I just gave Sally. So if there are 2 candidates with equal background and equal everything, but one is saying, I got you, I understand your pain points, here's how I can solve it, that's what they care about. They don't care if you've been unemployed for 6 months. So I hope that answers. I'm going to piggyback on that one I just get. So, I mean, obviously every recruiter, every hiring manager is different. Yes, there's biases against people who are being unemployed, which is ridiculous. I just posted about that yesterday on LinkedIn. Luckily, because the market has been such a shit show the last 2 years, I'm seeing a lot of recruiters and hiring managers ignoring that gap, at least the recruiters I talk to, because I talk to great ones, and they're like, I don't care if you have the gap as long as you can do the job. So your job is to explain to them how you can solve their pain points. So Sean, I hope that helped. And I want to go back to Hannah's. What do you think about accepting a contract position as a temporary income experience while continuing to look for full-time roles? Yes, I love it. Would I tell new companies I am interviewing for full-time roles that I'm working a contract role? You don't have to tell them. What you're doing on the side is none of their business. So I'm particularly, because this market has been so difficult, I know a lot of people out there are struggling. I am all about those bridge jobs, temp jobs, whatever you need to do to pay those bills at 1000%, go forth and do it. You don't need to explain but keep applying, keep hitting those, you know, job applications as you've been doing, networking, all of that good stuff, which is going to make you a lot busier because you're contracting and doing, you know, part-time work on top of that. But no, in answer to your question, you do not need to tell the people you're applying to that you're working a contract role. I hope that's helpful. Let me know if in the chats if okay, so, oh, and Hannah replied to Sean. Okay, excellent. I love seeing these conversations happening around this. This is amazing, you guys. I love how you're all supporting each other. Many ATS tools apply for me, JobScan. Any pointers, tips about using these schools? Ask Tammy. So Tammy says there are many ATS tools, Hunter, Apply for Me, JobScan. Any pointers about using these tools? I'm also going to shout out Teal. I like Teal as well. They have good people there. Let's talk about ATS real quick. ATS, for those of you who don't know, are applicant tracking systems. And there's this big myth going around that ATSs will,
You can also post like, hey, watch the Today Show.
can someone mute whoever? Okay, that wasn't a question for me. I just wanted to make sure. Just make sure y'all are muted if you're not asking a question. Thank you. Back to ATS. So ATS is a electronic file cabinet. That's all it is. So companies, there are dozens and dozens of ATSs out there. If you've ever applied for a job and you submit your resume and then it basically has you retype your resume, different ATSs are going to require that. Now, going back to which ones do you suggest, you know, in terms of like beat the ATS, there's always be talking about beat the ATS. There's no such thing as beating the ATS. It's an electronic file cabinet. So your application comes in and it just gets filed away. That said, there are some ATSs which can help recruiters scan by keywords. So when you are filling out the job application and they're essentially having you rewrite your resume, it's because the ATS is scanning your answers in those little block box where you're like retyping your experience. So if anyone ever, like a resume writer, anyone's coming up to you and going, your resume is non-compliant, it won't pass ATS, that's BS. They're just trying to sell you something. But the way you answer those questions in the application can help you get screened a little bit better through the ATS when you're hitting those keywords and you're outlining the skills that they're looking for and all that good stuff. Because again, if we go back to that Boolean search that recruiters use, they're using this long search term for job title, location, skills. So the more you can highlight those skills, the higher you're going to rank in their results. So I hope that makes things, I hope that clarifies things a little bit. In terms of resume services, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of JobScan and Teal. I like both of those a lot. And so if there's free versions, there's paid versions. Ultimately, you don't need to use any if you don't want. The big thing to remember with resumes, besides relevant, impact, and boring, is that you want to make sure, well, I guess it's back to relevant. You just want to make sure that you're customizing your resume for the job you're applying to, and you're loading it with keywords from the job description. That's going to be your best bet. So I hope that answers the question and that helps you out. Spurti, what are you saying here? Oh, yes. Oh, hello. Okay. After our call, I recently got an interview after months of search. All the rounds went well and got positive feedback, but later in weeks, they got back saying, I am not experienced in so on and on. This was really frustrating and sad because it happened after good rounds of interviews. Oh, Spurti, I'm so sorry about that. You're such a good interviewer too. Can you give me any suggestions? So particularly when you, first of all, that sucks and I'm sorry. Treat yourself to something nice this afternoon or whenever you get the messages, go for a walk, do something that makes you feel good. When you get further along in the job interview process and you end up, like, you get to the final round and you end up not being selected, keep in contact with those people. Whoever recruiter you were talking with, hiring manager, you say, thank you very much. I hope the new candidate is a great success for you. I'm always open if other opportunities come up in the company. You want to, because I've seen it happen before. They hire someone else and then that person leaves, or they were going for another offer and they didn't end up taking the offer, or for all sorts of reasons. So if you end up being like really close but not selected, keep in contact, be very gracious with them, and then keep in contact with them every few months. Hey, I'm still out there job hunting. I hope everything's going okay with you. If you see any other opportunities, let me know. Because the reason is you've already jumped over so many of hurdles to get to that final interview point. So you know that they like you. So keep them, kind of active in your network. Oh, Spurti, I'm so sorry. I hope that, oh my gosh, I hope that helps. Oh, Sean, I got you. Okay. All right. We did that. So Oh, yay! We do a lot of LinkedIn messaging. This is so exciting. Oh, Silvana, awesome. Anything, since you're here on the call, you are a rock star recruiter. Is there anything that I missed in any of these answers that you want to add to, or you agree or disagree with? Because you're such an amazing recruiter, I'm sure they would love your insights. And I don't mean to put you on the spot if you can't hop on.
Oh gosh, I hopped on a bit late, but I just was going to say that on your last statement, I've seen it happen multiple times where candidates who did end up getting the offer letter and for whatever reason the candidate left 2 weeks later or they got a better offer a month later. And I've seen it time and time again where the hiring manager was like, hey, we actually got the second second runner. Can we connect with him and let's get this person offered? So I just wanted to say I personally have that happen to me, and it's very, always leave on good terms, always stay in touch. But also something to keep in mind, I'd like to add, recruiters may have left that company and moved on to another company. So as you're a candidate, who already knows the recruiter, you've interviewed well with them, follow that recruiter and where they're at, because I mean that's an easy door to go into. So yeah, that's just my thoughts.
Oh my gosh, that never occurred to me before, but that's a really great. Oh my gosh, Silvana, thank you so much. Yes, yes.
You're welcome.
I'm so excited you're here. I feel like I'm meeting a rock star. If you guys aren't following Silvana on LinkedIn, so Silvana, if you want to drop your profile in the chat, she is always dropping the most amazing truth bombs, really approachable, rooting for you kind of recruiter. I'm a big fan of befriending recruiters whenever possible, because first of all, they have a really difficult job. I know it's easy to blame recruiters, but there is so much out of their control in the hiring process. So there's really good ones out there who advocate for their employees and are answering questions on LinkedIn, and she's a great one. Oh, Silvana, while we have you, Malcolm asked, can you suggest cover letters? Are they still required? Also, ChatGPT suggests yay or nay. I have an opinion on this, but Silvana, if you're still on, do you have anything you want to say about this?
Oh, for cover letters, I will just say I don't read them. I go straight to the meat. I go straight to the resume. What's really important though, and what weighs more, are thank you notes, thank you emails after your conversations with your recruiter, after your conversations with the hiring manager. Thank you notes are ideal because it sets a tone to, one, you can point out that you've actually listened. And also, if there were any questions that you felt like you stumbled on, it's a great way to say, like, hey, actually, I forgot to mention, I did X, Y, and Z, in my previous company, and you had mentioned that, and I forgot to mention that in our, conversation or interview. So highly, highly recommend thank you notes, and don't worry about cover letters. That I think it's just outdated at this point. Regarding ChatGPT, I use it. I use it, y'all. I type messages to hiring managers and I'm like, I don't like how this sounds. Let me see if ChatGPT can give me a few pointers, but I use it. Of course I don't copy and paste. Of course I change certain aspects, So that's my opinion. What about yours, Emily?
Agreed. So I would love to see cover letters go away. I'm with you 100%. I think and we could talk about this, maybe we need to have like an AMA with recruiter Silvana, but I think the entire hiring process is going to change in the next few years. And one of the things that's going to go away is cover letters. With that said, I like cover letters when you're doing a career pivot.
Oh yes. Yeah, that's a good
right?
point.
Because you want to explain, Now, Silvana, I don't think you were on the call earlier when I was saying this, but one of my favorite lines to use, especially in cover letters, is you're looking for someone who can do this. I've done it before. Here's how. Or you're looking for someone who can do this. Here's how I can help you. Cover letters are amazing for that. So if you can write a short little, it doesn't have to be a full, please don't make it a full page. Please don't make it 6 dense paragraphs. No one's going to read that. But if you can keep it nice and short with bullet points and say you're in that can explain, yes, I'm doing a pivot, but here's how my experience can help you, and list some bullet points and accomplishments. I like it. Now, I agree. All the recruiters I talk to say they don't read cover letters. They just go right to the resume and then yay or nay, you move on. But hiring managers like cover letters. So it doesn't kill you. If you don't write it, fine. But if you need to explain a career pivot or a gap or anything like that, it's definitely helpful. Now, in terms of ChatGPT, we all know what you do is you plug in your resume and you plug in the job description and you say, can you write me a cover letter? I like the prompt. You are a recruiter or you are a hiring manager hiring for this role. You are looking for someone who can do X, Y, Z. Help me write a cover letter that will attract your attention. You could, like, telling the ChatGPT what their role is in this is helpful. But whatever response you get, just use that as a basic outline and then put it in your own words, because it's very obvious when AI is used. So that's going to be my yes and to your very insightful comment, Silvana. So thank you for that. Okay. Oh, you know what, Gregory? Yeah, let's go back to the thank you letter real quick, because Gregory asked, would it give you a candidate, give you an edge over another candidate? Yeah, so I completely agree about thank you letters and how important there is. Let me give you a few bullet points that I recommend for people for their thank you letters. You say, thank you for interviewing me today for this position. You want to have the date that you interviewed and the position that you interviewed, because they're talking to a ton of people. I would also add to the thank you letter some point of reference from the conversation. I really enjoyed when you brought up XYZ, right? Or I thought you made a good point about ABC, whatever it is, right? Something so it kind of clicks in. If you did talk about anything personal, they have pets, let me rewind. Whenever you're networking or having a conversation with someone, I recommend you follow the KPI. This is another acronym that I like: kids, pets, and interests. If you ever are talking with someone and they mention they have kids, they have pets, or they have a hobby, write that down and reference it later. This is great for networking and thank you notes. So you can have, thank you for the conversation today. You know, we talked on this date for this job title. I like what you said about this. As Silvana perfectly said, if there's anything you tripped up on in the interview or you really want to reemphasize, you then include that. And then put on the bottom, you know, good luck with the soccer match this weekend, or, you know, give your dog a pet for me, or like a little personal note, right? Because it shows at the end of the day, we're humans talking to humans. And so those little connections, whenever someone is talking to me and they mention kids, pets, or interests, I write that down and mention it later. And people are like, oh my gosh, you were actually listening to me.
That's my first time hearing that, Emily. So I'm gonna steal that if that's okay.
KPI, baby. I've been meaning to do a LinkedIn post about it. So yes, KPI, you know me, I love doing my acronyms and I couldn't figure out anything else. And we all know KPIs. Christine asked, do recruiters and or companies see it negatively when you've been with the same company for many years, but you've had different positions? Why would that be negative?
No. Yeah, no, not at all. In fact, that's a rarity nowadays. So.
Right? If anything, I think it shows you have loyalty and you've moved up within the company. So, oh yeah, emphasize that. Now, how you write about it in your resume and your LinkedIn, what I would do is I would do the company name, and then do most recent job title, some bullet points illustrating your impact, next job title, bullet points, next job title, bullet points, but it's all under that same company heading. And then you can also do that for LinkedIn. And that way it shows your career progression, you know, through the years. But good for you. No, I think that's wonderful. Okay, I think I'm caught up on the chat comments, and I realized I've gone over, so I know if some of you have to go, that's okay. I have to go by 1, but I've got a little bit more time. Okay, what's a good networking? Okay, let's talk about networking. Yes, okay, so Brittany asked, All right, Arena, you had asked me, but I answered this earlier with Sally about a good strategy for someone doing a career pivot. Worried about underselling yourself, what kind of language to avoid. I just want to make sure, in case you didn't see that earlier, just re-emphasizing, as long as you're saying to someone, these are your pain points and here's how I can solve them, you're solid. So that's what I recommend for people doing a career pivot. As long as you're making it very clear, I understand what you need and I can help you with it. But let's go to networking, because I get these kind of questions a lot. So Brittany had asked me 2 questions. I'm going to answer the first one now. What is a good networking strategy I can implement in my job search? I'm going to introduce you guys to this. This is my 5-step job search process that I recommend for people. Notice networking here is step 4. Now, Jesse, I know you know this very well. So let's just review this real quickly for people who haven't seen this before. Also notice, by the way, job search is step 5. Step number 1, figuring out what you want. What kind of careers interest you? What kind of job titles, industries, companies? You need to have that clarity in order to have a satisfying career. Number 2, who are your target employers and what do they want? So that's looking at their company, understanding their mission, reading their job descriptions, and getting a good handle on what's important to them. Because once you know what you want and what they want, that's the secret sauce, my friends. Personal brand. I love personal brand. I could talk about it for 16 hours. What I mean by personal brand is how you position yourself in a way that is appealing to your target employers by speaking to their pain points, and how that's reflected in your resume and your LinkedIn. Once your resume and LinkedIn is nice and tight, this right here, as I like to say, the job search is not a numbers game, especially in 2024. It is a recruiter and a referral game. So I've been teaching this for 8 years, and it is more so than ever before, this step. So once you have this nice and tight, let's talk about networking. So what I mean by networking is reaching out to your network, cold calling new contacts, cold calling recruiters, all that good stuff. If that doesn't work, we get to the job search. So I wanted to give you this backup, because if you're networking, but you're not quite clear on what you want, or your resume, LinkedIn need a little bit of help, networking is going to be a little bit tougher. So I just kind of wanted to rewind and pull back. Now let's talk about some networking tips. My job has gotten a lot harder the last few years because this job market is so bonkers. What used to be guaranteed no fail was that step, the networking step. And I used to just tell clients, you reach out to some people, they're going to do an informational interview with you, they're going to fall in love with you, and you get hired. I used to see a 25-30% response rate on those. I'm now seeing about a 2 or 3% response rate. People are generally not responding to those messages. So it used to be you could reach out to people and say, hey, do you have 15 minutes to chat? No one's doing that anymore. So if there's someone who you want to build a relationship with, what I suggest doing is that you first, ideally they're on LinkedIn and they're active on LinkedIn. The first thing you do is you start liking their stuff. You start commenting. You follow them. It's a slow burn. Okay. Then once they see your name a couple times, you're commenting. Here's a little side note that I don't publicize because it sounds a little weird, but it's super effective. If you have a VIP, someone who's working at a company where you really want to work, you can lightly stalk them a little bit. So you all know on LinkedIn that people can see your comment history. So what you do is you go to that person's profile and look to see where they are commenting, and then go comment on those posts and like and interact with their comments on other posts. Because in marketing, we have what's known as a rule of 7. People need to hear your message 7 times before it starts sinking in. Same deal with networking. If you just write someone up out of the blue and go, hey, you sound interesting, got 15 minutes? No, I don't. But if someone they're seeing your name, they're seeing you in the comments section, they're seeing you in other areas, you're starting to build that. Now you have name recognition, so that when you actually make your ask, they're generally a lot more willing to talk with you because you're not just some random person out of the blue. So it's not a short-term solution, I'm sorry to say, but from a networking perspective, it's very much a slow burn, especially in 2024. Now, here's another insider tip I like to give to people when they're networking. If especially you have a VIP, someone you really want to connect with, I tell people to set up Google alerts about their name and the company they're working for and or any interest they have. Particularly if you've just had a conversation with them and you know about that, set up the Google alerts. That way, when you get the alert about their name, their company, or their interest, you send them that article. And now you're not harassing them, you're not bothering them, you're providing something of value. So if you have people in your network, I'm always telling job seekers, you got to be the squeaky wheel. I tell job seekers, if you could make a monthly newsletter about your job search that you're sending out to your network, so they remember that, hey, still out here, still looking for work. Beautiful. Consistency is key with networking. So if you are liking, commenting on their post, sending them articles of interest, and then messaging them, that's going to be the most solid way of developing relationships. I like to say with networking, it's not transactional. Networking is all about helping other people, offering help and being able to provide help. And one of the ways you can provide help, even to those VIP CEOs of the top companies, send them articles. So I hope that helps. Oh, Gregory, yes. One of my biggest turnoffs as a recruiter or someone in the HR space, they don't have business cards on them. Yeah, it's like, are you, oh, Jason, oh, Michael, sorry, Jason, real quick. I see your hand is up. Yes, completely agree, Silvana. Networking is a long game. Absolutely. Michael, at what point in the process do you send a connection request? I would do it after you start liking and commenting on their posts. Now, again, this is ideally people who are active on LinkedIn. Let me rewind. I tell my clients there are two ways to search for jobs. Brush off your resume and apply on job boards, or find 10 to 20 target companies, find 10 to 15 people in those companies and network your way to a job. And we can talk about that extensively, but that's the short of it. So if you're going that route and you're targeting companies and you're targeting people who work at those companies, those 10 to 15 people who you're targeting are people who work in the department where you want to work, have similar job titles, right? Ideally, though, you're looking for those people who are active on LinkedIn. That's going to make your job a lot easier because, again, you're liking and commenting and interact with their posts. You're going where they're commenting. So once you've got that warmed up, then you send the connection request. LinkedIn recently changed their algorithm so that if you are over 500 connections, your first option is to follow. It's no longer to connect. Now, the little hack around that is next to their name, it says follow, and there's a little more button. And if you click the more button and you scroll down, there's going to be a connect option. So that's where you can send the connection and a 300 character message. So if they're not active on LinkedIn and you can't do that slow burn that we talked about, go on ahead and send the connection request. But the connection request is not, hey, you sound interesting, love your company, got 15 minutes to chat. Your connection request is, your career sounds really interesting, hoping to connect. So the line I like to use is hoping to connect so I'll see more of your posts in my feed. That's the personal line that I like to use, right? So you're not asking anything of them. You're just opening the door for the connection. Bonus points, if they are active on LinkedIn, reference something that they just wrote about. I really liked your post about XYZ. I thought that was really interesting, hoping to connect so I'll see more. So Michael, I hope that answered your question. Jason, thanks for being patient. What's up, my friend? Oh, you're muted, my friend. Can you? Okay, I asked you to unmute. I don't know if that's going to work. Oh, wait. No. Oh, Michael, nice. Way to add your link. I like it. Jason, are you still I can't hear you, my friend. I'm so sorry. Is there any way you can drop it in the chat? Drop your question in the chat. We'll give that a try. Plus a person, Gregory says, plus a person told me that if your profile is more solid and genuine, if you have 500 plus connections, 500 plus connections is the magic number because the number of connections cuts off after 500. So if you are first active on LinkedIn and you only have like 100 connections or so, don't worry, you can get more. A great way of building connections is people who are active on LinkedIn, who are posting a lot, connect with those people. because they're active. You know, they're going to see the message, and you can say, thank you for that post about XYZ. I thought that was interesting. Hoping to connect. So I'll see more of your posts in my feed, right? So you can start doing that, and you can be strategic about those connections that you're adding. So again, people who work at the companies where you want to work, joining groups is an amazing way to build your connections, because you join LinkedIn groups of people who have similar interests, and then you can kind of build connections from there. If anyone likes your post or comments on your post, send them a connection request. Thanks for commenting on my post today. I really appreciate it. Let's connect. Your background looks interesting. Just make sure those messages that you send are personalized. Not that, hey, let's connect, please, but say something about their profile that is interesting.
I've been doing that for the last 3 to 4 months in terms of liking their like any post that they have liked. I just basically send them send them a quick personalized invite to connect and stuff, and I look at their profile. One of them, I basically got a connection, says look to say if that's there's 2 universities in the state of Arkansas. I just want to know if that's the one that has nicknamed the Razorbacks. And he says yep, and he said and he did his college war cry in his invite and stuff. So yeah, so I've been doing that very a lot of time in that on my, because I was around in early spring or early summer around around 250, 300, and I'm basically around 610, 615 around there right now. So yeah.
My friends, Gregory knows how to do it. Okay, Jason, you're going to be the
But
last.
my resume, my resume is my I will say Stonewall thing, because I will say people like the ATS systems, it's not an equitable situation that they are treating my resume as a able-bodied human being, but as a person who's coming from a neurodivergent background, which is a problem in the HR space in my view. So yeah.
Gregory, Jason, I'm going to get to your question. It came through real quick. I want to say this real quick. Anyone who's posting your resume on LinkedIn, I do not recommend it. So if anyone is doing that, I wrote an article about why. Long story short, your resume should be customized for each job you apply to. So unless you're applying to the exact same job title every single time with the same keywords and all of that jazz, great. So that's number one, because it should be customized. So having that up there, it could disqualify you for some jobs. Number two, it's a privacy issue, because your resume has all of your contact information on it. So if you do want to post your resume on LinkedIn and you want to put it in the featured section, 2 things. First of all, take your phone number off of it. Second of all, change the email. I recommend job seekers have a job search email anyway, specifically for their job search. I recommend that you do name plus job title at gmail.com. So Emily Career Coach at gmail.com. So I recommend people have their own personalized job search. It's great for branding, but it also keeps all of your job search stuff in one email so that you're not overwhelming plus you're going to get spammed from all of these accounts now. So it's just keep it clean in one account. So if you end up posting your resume on LinkedIn, I don't recommend it, but if you do, remove your phone number and change the email to your job search email address. I also recommend you have a job search email address and you put that in your LinkedIn profile, because you want to make it really easy for recruiters to reach out to you. So having your contact information right there in your LinkedIn profile. So always looking to connect. Here's my job search email. That way you're not giving away private information, and it's easier because recruiters only get so many messages they can send out each month. So you want to make it easy for them to reach out. So let's go to Jason's question. This is going to be the last question of this session. Jason asked, when do you when you do eventually have that chat, any good topics other than do you have any opportunities or roles? I'm assuming, Jason, you mean you have targeted someone at the company where you want to work. You've made that connection. They are finally messaging back to you, the Holy Grail. Am I correct? Is that what you mean? Let's see here. Okay. Yep. Excellent. Yes. Okay. So at this point, you're in the informational interview stage. And I'm a big fan of informational interviews. I have a digital course about it. I love informational interviews. They're the best way to network. At this point, consider it like an information gathering stage. So what you're doing is you're asking about their experience working at the company. By the way, you guys, if you see a company you might want to work for, go contact former employees. You can do that through LinkedIn Advanced Search, and you can look at past companies and you can put in the past company name and it'll pull up past employees. If you really want to get the dirt, ask to talk to someone there because they're not on the payroll anymore. They can give you the full situation. And if they recently left the company, they still have contacts in the company. Side note. Let's go back to your question. So at this point, it's what's known as an informational interview. It's a fact-finding mission. So you're asking about their experience working at the company, working in that department. Is there a lot of turnover there? You're trying to understand company culture, right? You're not outright asking, hey, person I just met, will you refer me for a job? What you're doing is encouraging them to talk. If they mention those KPIs, kids, pets, or interests, you're writing that down, right? You want to start building that repartee with them so that they are feeling comfortable with you, all of that good jazz. If the conversation's flowing and going really well, you mention, I've seen this open role at the company. I've been wanting to work at this company for a really long time. Here's the key. This is what you asked, Jason. Do you have any recommendations on the application process? So that way you're not straight up asking, hey, will you refer me? But they'll be able to tell you, here's the hiring manager, here's the process we go through. So you're just asking their opinion. What do you think would be best for the resume? Any tips for the application process? Anyone in particular I should be talking to, right? So that's kind of what you're doing with the conversation. At the end of the conversation, you also ask, this was amazing. Do you mind if I reach out if I have any further questions? And if you can recommend anyone else I can talk to, because then you can use their reference to get you talking to another person, right? If the conversation's going amazingly well and you guys are totally hitting it off and they're like, oh yeah, no, I can refer you, awesome. Then you just go on and, do that thing. But asking that question, if you have any advice about the job search process, and if they're not giving you what you want, you could say, is there a referral program? Right? So it's like, hint, 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 right? Because if there's a referral program, they're getting cash for referring good people if that person gets hired. So I hope that helps. Did that answer your question, Jason? Excellent. Excellent. Oh my gosh, you guys, this was incredible. I have officially sweated through my shirt, but I hope it was helpful to you guys. I'm definitely hoping to do some of these in the future. So send me an email. I might not have everyone's email address here who's on this. So if you're not on my mailing list already, if you're on my mailing list and you're getting my emails, that means you'll get a copy of this recording. But if you're not on my mailing list, then send me an email and I will certainly add you. Like I mentioned, I've got a LinkedIn course launching in 2 weeks. I'm going to officially announce it to the group tomorrow. But if you are interested in talking about LinkedIn, it's going to be 4 weeks. What we do is week one about personal branding and finding your keywords. Week 2 is about writing your personal brand statements and getting those bullet points for your resume and your LinkedIn. Week 3, we talk about everything to do with your LinkedIn profile. And then week 4, we talk about what the heck to do on LinkedIn. So no worries at all, no pressure. But if that interests you, that's on emilywarden.com and you go to coaching services and you'll find it there. What we're going to do is I'm going to start releasing the materials next week. And then we do our first, where it's 4 sessions of live group meetings. That's going to be Tuesday at noon, just like this, where you guys watch the videos in advance, do your homework, and then we do Q&A and workshopping. So just throwing that in as a side note. Thank you guys very much for this. Okay, wonderful. Lisa, do me a favor. Just email. So Emily@emilywarden.com. You know what? Let me drop that in the chat. Emily@emilywarden.com. That's the best way to email me. I'll make sure to send you that link. And thank you guys so much for joining me. You have filled my heart. You truly have. And I genuinely hope it's been helpful. If you have any other questions, send me a message. Oh, and Jonah, thank you for your input too. Y'all are amazing.
People who make pivots and reinventions all the time.
Emily, for example, someone just visited my profile, gave a personal invite link, and we have a connection
That you have
like that.
words in.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes. In my LinkedIn course, by the way, guys, I'm opening up a private LinkedIn group. So those who enroll in the LinkedIn course are going to be part of this group where we can kind of keep the networking going. But I don't know, maybe I can figure out a way, people who signed up today, we join a group. I don't know. You guys are sparking all of these ideas for me. I'm going to keep it going, but I love this networking. Yes. Thank you guys for these messages. You're amazing. Oh, Malcolm, good point. You can save the chat in the top left corner. Click save chat. So I'll give you, or top right. Thank you, Malcolm. If you save that, then you also get the chat from this conversation. All right. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful afternoon. You're amazing. Good luck with your search.